Guess what, Greg?
What's that?
Once again, Kind of Funny Gamescast brought to you by
Video blocks.
Video blocks. Look at that eagle. Look at us.
There's
Stock
that girl
footage.
running.
Awesome stock footage. You can go there. It's very cheap. It's affordable. It's all these good things. Now, the best thing about this, royalty free, Greg.
Yeah.
It's a subscription based stock footage site. So you go there, you pay, you can download as much as you want. Unlimited.
Sure.
Stock footage.
Right. Use it in your videos.
Then royalty free. Even when your subscription's done, this is your
Still
footage.
yours.
You're
So
totally
this
good.
isn't like PlayStation Plus.
Nope. This is
Nice.
the future. Unlimited downloads and unlimited creative uses, commercial uses, all that stuff. There's also audioblocks.com, which is the audio side of things, where there's a bunch of
no
sound
video
library.
Right.
Yeah.
You want a creaking door? You want a creaking cat? You want a robotic dinosaur? They got it all at Audio Blocks.
Video Blocks is offering you all a year's subscription to both Video Blocks and Audio Blocks for only $149. This is a $100 discount off the normal price. An incredible discount deal to get both stock video and audio files for any future project you may be using. Get your subscription for only $149 at videoblocks.com/Gamescast 2016. As you can see there, videoblocks.com/Gamescast.
I hope you enjoyed this ad, Cisco.
2016.
He liked the other one.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 99 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Oh yeah, 100's next week. And for the first time ever, for like an actual celebratory show, we're doing something.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Well, 100's something that matters.
Yeah.
A year in, 52 weeks in, that's not
That's the
something
problem. It's like
celebrate.
we're always like, oh, we'll do it when we hit this milestone, then we forget about it and we don't. So I'm happy. Timing worked out for this. So that's going to be good. But first off, we're doing episode 99.
Yeah.
Don't want to sell this one short.
Don't jump ahead yet. There's something going on here in this episode. There's things, there's opinions, there's game talk, there's Colin. He doesn't like this.
I'm not sure that he doesn't like it.
It felt kind of good.
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't like it. I don't like it because it feels good.
This is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week we get together to talk about video games and all the things we love about them. I already fucked up the rigmarole. I'm Tim Gettys alongside the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
I feel like you have such a rolling intro to the show, you can't really fuck it up. You're just talking. You always just talk.
I just talk. It's what I do. It's because I never really think about what I'm saying. And then as I'm saying it, I'm like, oh, wait, there are things I'm supposed to hit on.
Yeah.
Like Steven Insler, Patreon producer. Thank you for supporting the show forever and making it last forever. And thank you all to the people that have supported us on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. A lot of people have been supporting to get the show. Colin was right, which is fucking fantastic.
Very good show.
Been a big fan. It's only getting better. Like a fine red wine.
You know how much you love red wine.
I know, I love red wine. Thank you for your feedback on the show. The second of the 3 pilots that will be up by the time you see this, I assume.
All 3 will be up by the time this is.
Perfect. So, that's true.
That's wrong.
Well, this goes live next week, right?
No, this is
on
this
YouTube.
is this
It goes live
show.
on Patreon. We're complicated, but you're right. Episode 2 will for sure be
And
up.
it's a reflection on some of the actionable feedback that I got. So I hope that you guys can see the evolution, and hopefully the 3rd episode will then be an evolution from there. So, and then everything will roll out for free. You don't have to be, because people are like, well, I in YouTube comments, people are like, oh, I'm so happy to subscribe to Patreon now that I can, Colin's right. And I'm like, I appreciate it, but it's going to be free for everyone on January. There will be no option to subscribe to Patreon.
The Patreon pilot program. $1 gets you to see these and give feedback and direct it. Now, here's what I have to ask.
What do you
Colin.
got, Greg?
I love the show. You do great work. Did this shirt shrink? Is it a new shirt? I feel like this logo is bigger than ever for Dredge.
It's always been this big, I think.
It's just like looking at it. Maybe I've never looked at it in the monitor, but holy shit, is that a logo right there? Look, I mean, you got such a manly chest too. But there it is, just jetting out there.
Oh, look how manly it is.
Oh. Yeah, it feels good.
I don't like it because it feels good. You shouldn't be making me feel good sexually. Thank you.
It's true. How do you spell dredge? Is it DREDG?
Yep.
What is that?
Band.
I know it's a band, but like, what's dredge?
Well, dredging, I think, is like going into dredging. This isn't the way you really spell dredge.
Yeah, there's an E on it.
But I think isn't dredging going into like water and moving land around inside of it? Isn't that?
Well, I
a
think
dredge?
it's. I thought dredging is like dragging, like you dredge chicken, right? When you're doing
like that too. But I think I thought it had something to do. Yeah, dredge with an E at the end of it. What does it say? I can't see.
Clean out the bed.
No, that can't be it.
You gotta keep reading.
What does it say? I can't see it. Thank you. Clean out the bed, a harbor, river, or other area of water by scooping out mud, weeds, and rubbish with a dredge. Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Noun, an apparatus for bringing up objects or mud from a river or seabed by scooping or dragging. What's number 2 on the noun? Is that all there is for nouns?
What the hell?
It comes from English dredge, late 15th century, Middle Dutch, dreggy, grappling hook.
That's kind of sick.
Well, there you go.
Do you think that they call it like this because they wanted to get the URL
Probably.
and the Twitter name?
Yeah. They were in high school, I think, when they came up with this name. So who knows what the hell it is?
They
Zanga
probably
name.
just spelled it wrong.
Yeah, that's probably true. So, guys, you guys both beat all 5 episodes of Telltale's Batman.
I did. I somehow beat it before Greg, which was insane. Because of the who knew it was going to be the first because of the crashing and all this kind of stuff that happened in the 5th episode.
Yeah. Well, it was more insane because you actually played a Telltale game before they were all out. That was the interesting.
That was
playing them.
unintentional though.
You just got confused. But I had been playing them, and then you started before me and then beat it last night before me. But we both beat it last night. Overall, what a fucking experience.
It's a great game.
Yeah, really.
Before we get into this,
my
let's
apologies.
set some ground rules. What are we doing here? What are you guys going to do?
I'd love to spoil
I think
it,
this is
but-
the review, so I think we spoil
So
away here.
How about you want to do a spoiler-free review?
Sure, okay,
for a little
like-
bit and then make
like
it
our
very
movies.
Clear, make very clear when the spoilers come in.
Okay, yeah.
And then for people that don't want spoilers, come back for topic 2.
Okay. So, but right now it's spoiler free. So overall, I think an awesome game, awesome experience. I love the chances they took in the way they played with Batman mythology. It's what I always talk about where what I'm excited for with the Spider-Man games Marvel's doing now, or Insomniac's Spider-Man game, where I think they're going to go out and actually do something different, give people the keys to the kingdom, not be tied to the lore. And that's exactly what this Batman game was, where it starts off. I think I was talking to Mitch, our friend Mitch Dyer, and he had been playing and then stopped playing. And he's like, it's just more Batman. I'm like, yeah, that's the episode 1 sets it up very much that like this is the Batman, this is the Gotham you know and love. And then at the end, they drop that cliffhanger. And when I came into episode 2, I was expecting them to take it away. To be like, but it wasn't what you thought it was. That was just a cliffhanger. Instead, they go balls deep on it of just like, no, that's what this is. And this guy's doing that. And they start mutating and taking the Batman mythos we know so well and doing interesting things with it. And it's not exactly what you expect. And when that starts happening for me, it then began making me question all of my relationships with the other characters, where I'm like, all right, I'm going to back you because I think, they're toying around a lot. And so you have to start thinking of, I know character X in this fashion and who they've been in past canon and past comics and movies and stuff like that. But based on what they're doing in this game, should I trust them? Is this character X that I've always known as character X? They play with those relationships and those characters where you do start to question if you can trust that person the way you think you can trust them. At least I did. And then go through and start playing. And that's fascinating, let alone the fact that it is a Batman game that lets you be the Batman you want to be. And I found, like, I've been doing that Telltale show over there. Full disclosure, I host that Telltale Batman talk show. They don't pay me, so whatever. But so that's like why, whatever. You can try believe me or don't believe me, I don't care. But one of my favorite conversations when I have guests on that show is, like, we just had Troy on, right? And talking to Troy, him and I are playing incredibly different Batmans. And I can't get over the way he's playing because he's playing the brutal, vengeful, I'm going to break your arm and I'm going to hit you with this steel pipe and I'm going to throw you down and impale you on shit. And I'm like,
get shot, Batman.
Holy fuck, like that's not Batman. He's like, no, that is Batman to me. And that's what's so fascinating about this game is that Telltale's always giving you the ability to choose, X, Y, or Z or whatever to make your choices and branch out your story. And it always comes back, right? We always talk about it being like, this bell-shaped thing where you're going to eventually have to come back to the same point. You come out and come back to the same conclusion. And so that's always taking something away from it. But here I feel like there's so many little choices you're making that really influence not necessarily the story, but your role in it, your Batman, and how that's going to play out. And that's fascinating in the way of, like, I'm playing it the way Batman has always been in the comics, where it is very much, or the Batman I think of in all the comics, right? Where it is, I'm going to do good for all the people in my life. I'm going to protect Gotham at all costs. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to set an example of what we all can be. I'm going to be that, gray and blue cowl Batman. I'm not being the dark, fucking Burton Batman or the Frank Miller Batman. And to see that being out there and it's always a tantalizing choice, and especially in episode 5, I think, where you start building up and things are happening. That's when I was like thinking, like, if they give me the option to do this, what am I going to do when I really get there? But in the end, I just got being good old Batman. Colin, spoiler free. How are you enjoying it?
I think it's great. I think that there are a lot of technical issues. I actually had a back and forth today with the CEO of Telltale on Twitter, where he was asking about what the problems were, and I told him, and then I reflected after that. I'm like, I really hope you figure these problems out. Like your narrative and your storytelling and your characters deserve a better engine. And frankly, just to get the negative out of the way, Batman is another engineering failure on Telltale's part, and especially the 5th episode. I noticed. I
want to go through this, like actually what we saw in episode 5, because that would, like, outside of this we talked about on Colin Greg Live. I had the little hitches, like the Telltale hitch, I always call it, where you're about to transition scenes in the other episodes. I was like, all right, whatever, it's better than usual. But then episode 5 was one of the worst Telltale experiences I've had in terms of quality.
So I think it speaks to the game's caliber that I still actually loved it, even though the 5th episode in particular was a mess, and it's a mess for a lot of people. People are just not appearing.
Yeah.
But Batman, I think for a lot of people, I think in the same thing. You fight in a certain place, and you're fighting a guy who's not even there.
I didn't have that.
It's just eyeballs and like a mouth. And I actually was really funny because then the guy's like running in the background somewhere.
Yeah,
and
you see eyes and a mouth run by.
And I'm like, why is this like?
And I put up the video clip of that last night saying I'm seeing this, and so many people are like, I saw that too. And then you tweeted that you had a slowdown in your first 15.
It was awful. It was barely running.
Wow.
Like in the first 15 minutes or 10 minutes or so. People were talking about how the game was crashing at certain points and missing trophies, so people have to play the whole thing again to get the trophies, which is bullshit. That would fucking infuriate me if that happened. And there are just other issues as well. But in the other 4 episodes, there was slowdown and hitching constantly, and not to nearly to the extent of this. Actually, I think in the 3rd or 4th episode, I had a similar significant frame rate slowdown. And so just on a technical level, like, there are no more excuses. The PS4 should be able to run this game just fine. They talked about how this is a new engine, and I'm putting that in quotes because it's reacting a lot like the old engines from the Walking Dead anyway that I played years ago. And there are no more excuses. These games are not technological behemoths. They are not doing anything interesting or unique from a technical standpoint. The game should be able to run, and especially on these new machines. And so that, just getting the negative out of the way, they need to fix that. It's inexcusable.
Well, what's
It's
crazy
inexcusable
about
how
it is
broken
the
these
fact
games
that
are.
we're all seeing the same, how similar they are and how different they are. So I didn't have the slowdown, and I had seen people bitching about that when I was getting ready to launch. I was like, fuck. I didn't get it, and I was like, oh, good, it's not a widespread problem. Then I got Eyeball Man. I tweeted that out, and so many people were like, I got that too. And then it was 3 back-to-back crashes where Eyeball Man happened. We were about to scene transition, doing hard lock, blue screen. Then it was another one. I got into the battle at the end, hard lock, blue screen. Then one more time it happened in that battle. I was like, what the fuck?
It is strange that, that these things happen, and I've also read about people losing their saves. This was a thing that was happening at Game of Thrones. I mean, these are like, it's just fix your fucking engine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like, just to get the fury out of Colin right now, like, it's insane that this is still happening. These games are not that dynamic. I'm sorry. Like, they're not. So they should be able to fix that. I think they know that that's an issue. I just don't think they care. I mean, that's what they're telling me now. Like, not literally, but that's what they're saying. By putting this game out in this condition, we still don't give a fuck about this. Sorry. So that's my takeaway on the negative side. That said, the overwhelming positivity I have for the game is the storytelling was great. I tried to play it in the way that, first of all, it felt like there were really consequential decisions to be made, and the game actually radically changed. And I like how there were multiple times in the series in all 5 episodes, and I want to say maybe even one time per episode, where it was really like a big decision, and the game stops and lets you actually think about it, which I think is cool.
It pops up and it's like, which one do you want to do?
And I always tended to play and to go forward as much as possible as Bruce Wayne. That was like my whole thing, is like I tried to keep Batman out of it as much as possible. And because I think Bruce Wayne is just way more interesting than Batman. I think that in everything I've seen, actually, he's more interesting than Batman. So I liked that. I tried to play it to the best of my ability in terms of being tonally consistent, and obviously you have those kinds of options as well. I like knowing Batman way more and way better than I know any other comic book. I do like how they play around with certain characters. We'll get into that in the spoiler section, and even brought up some questions I had asked Greg, because I was like, this doesn't even sound right. Like, this doesn't sound like something that's in Batman, and it wasn't, because they're just making things up as they go along, which I think is totally fine.
Which is refreshing, right? Like, how many times do we need to hear the same story? That my biggest complaint against Arkham Knight, spoilers, is that, right? It's just, all right, cool. This is just the Jason Todd story again. This is, Red Hood. Why did they make a big deal like this is going to be original when it isn't original at all? You just called the character a different name.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that, I like how the decisions need to be. I feel like the decisions need to be made snappier than usual. I don't know if that's true or not, because I haven't played anything Telltale's done in years. but I felt like I didn't have time
Last
almost
night-
to make the decisions, and I thought that was kind of cool, but at the same time, not cool. You know, I think I read actually pretty quickly, and but then you have to calculate it and compute it. And
Well, I think that's the whole thing. Like, for last night in episode 5, for the first time in a lot of Telltale games that I've played, it was that I got the bar down because I was like fretting over which decision to make, and I just chose one, right? And it didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I was like, that was a dumb move. But it was, that's how it went. That's what Bruce did in that moment. That's how I, as Bruce, reacted, and that's what I have to live with. And it's like, all right, I always like that. That's kind of cool. You know what I mean? I could go back and I could replay, but you can always just watch a YouTube video because it's very much like, that's my playthrough. That's my Batman. This is how my story went.
Yeah, I made decisions that I didn't think were the ones that I wanted to make, but I stick with it because it's the nature of it and it's the unpredictability of it. I think they play around with the button prompts in the sense that it's not always like Mass Effect, like Paragon and Renegade are always these predictable answers. Like sometimes it seems like you're making a bad decision, but it reminds me a little bit more of like Fallout New Vegas in that respect. Yeah, I like the characters. I like the voice acting. I think I think that they have to simplify these games a little bit in the sense that I found myself most engaged with them. I was literally playing the game most of the time with my controller just in my right hand. And that's totally fine, a fine way to play it. I felt myself engaged and engrossed in it a few times where I forgot to make a decision just because I was like staring at it, like as if something was going to happen. I'm like, oh yeah, like I have to do something. And then it was just the ellipsis option instead, like you didn't say anything. I don't necessarily ever need to have control over Batman in the way that they give you control over him. And I think that they should remove these elements from these games. And I had the same complaint about The Walking Dead, which I really thought was great as well, where any moment where you're walking around a scene or identifying things, I'm like, I don't need to see or do any of this. Like, just show me, like, make it more of a pure adventure game where I'm making decisions, the things are going, and I'm selecting things on screen, but you don't have to, like, I feel like they throw this shit in because they feel like they have to, and I don't think it adds anything to the game. I actually think it detracts from the game. I think the most exciting parts of the game are when you're, like, the first episode's a great example when Bruce Wayne's at, with Harvey at the mansion at some sort of political fundraiser and it's just a long time of just making decisions, just walking around. You're not controlling anything. You're just making decisions. Everyone's talking and reacting to the things you say.
100%.
And I think that that's the most fun part of the game. And I understand that to a lot of people, that's not a game. But to me, that is a game. It's a visual novel in that respect.
That's a good point. The visual novel is the more making choices and asking. But I feel like the walking around is the more classic adventure.
Well, I mean, I'm talking more of a maybe for more of a point and click or hidden object kind of game where I'm like, I don't like hidden object games. I actually reviewed one for IGN for some reason. But like something like more static screen, less more agency given through less locomotion of the character, I guess. I think that would be great.
Like in Batman, there's the detective things where you walk around and try to reconstruct the crime scene, which I thought was cool enough, right? But it is just enough of identifying all these different things and then piecing together. Episode 5 does one that I won't spoil, but you're seeing images and you have to put together what's happening through them, and that would be a way to do it. Just fixed camera perspectives, right? Where you move around to one way, you move over to some, you're just making, I don't even know, but like Batman is naturally moving through once he's gotten everything he needs from this one area. That'd be a way to do it and go, because it is that thing of like, why do I need to walk him around the house? Because then it does get awkward and like, you know what I mean? That was always the thing, like what you're talking about with Walking Dead, where in season 1, Lee Everett in the pharmacy, when you walk him around, it was always awkward because it was like there was like one part where you couldn't tell there's like a blind corner or something, so he just like walked all weird into a wall.
Yeah, it's unimmersive, and so that's a complaint of mine. But I think the storytelling is so strong. I think the butterfly effects are so significant and so deep, and I will give them a lot of credit. And I'm excited about this. There's clearly going to be a second season, and a lot of the things you do in the 5th episode in particular are remembered by characters you never see again. And so clearly the save is going to carry over, and clearly the things you do in episode 5 are going to carry over to season 2, episode 1. So I am excited about that as well, because I think that, Troy Baker is very strong in this. I think I like Alfred's portrayal, which is pretty tonally consistent in a lot of things, but I liked there was an extra edge to him in this particular one. I thought the Harvey in particular was super interesting, and maybe just the choices I made, but super left field. And then there are some cameos and stuff like that I think set up everything for the second season. So I liked it a lot. I think it would be one of the best games of the year if it ran better, and it dealt with some of those things. I think I would remove it from that list because of the way it runs, and because there's just way better games this year. But it is a game that people should play. $25. It's a totally reasonable investment.
So spoiler time.
Yeah.
If you guys don't want to be spoiled, stop listening, come back for topic 2, or play the game, come back later. Greg.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I still like it, even with the spoilers out there. Now, what's fascinating is watching how other people play and what their Batman becomes and what their cast of characters becomes, right? Like the choice I made in the moment that as soon as I did, I was like, oh, that was so bonehead, as I told Catwoman I loved her. And I was like, oh, that's not how I should have played that. I shouldn't have said that. God damn it. Like in episode 5, when
that sucks.
on the road, I want to know, what did you say to her and what happened?
I think so in that,
They're coming to
arrest you because you told Catwoman, you told Selena you loved her. So in that particular conversation, I told her that I was like, it meant something, that relationship meant something to me. I definitely went down that line. But then when it went to like, I love you, I was just like, goodbye.
Nice.
And let her go.
And she took it.
She remembered that.
Yeah. Because that was the thing where, for me, I said I love you, and I was like, oh, no. And she's like, that just shows you're like everybody else or whatever, and put on her helmet and drove away. I was like,
we left on great terms.
No, we did not leave on good terms. I was like, see you later. See you later, good riddance, or some other things pop up. I'm like, see you later. Fucking rode off. I'm like, God damn it, I look like a fucking chump. I got played on this one, motherfucker.
So I think the big spoilers are, first of all, Joker's in it. And I like how they introduce him. I find him super weird and unsettling, which I think is the idea. He's super over the top, happy and normal and passive.
The best part about how they play him in episode 4 on his introduction is the fact that we know him, so we're reading so much into him, and that whole thing that he's clearly acting sane. He's a crazy person acting how he thinks a sane person would act. And he has those moments where he breaks, right, and yells at the guy and bangs on the door and then walks away and like tries to pull it back together. And so I have him now out, ready to go. Not to mention in the riot scene in episode 5, just chilling there, just like, I'm a big fan of your work. And it's also, I love how much intrigue, and like you're talking about how your save's going to carry over. You assume and hope so, obviously.
I mean, it has to be. There are things that they're literally telling you, these characters will remember all the shit that does not matter.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing where, like, I don't know how you played it in episode 4, but when he's like, will you owe me a favor? I'll help you here if you owe me one.
Yeah, I did.
And so he's like, you're going to owe me one. And the way Joker talks to Bruce Wayne in Arkham makes it seem like he knows he's Batman. And then in episode 5, their interaction didn't play that way, so I don't know if that's the case, but that would be such a fucking awesome twist on lore if Joker's introduction to Batman and Bruce Wayne in season 2 is he knows everything, and he knows that you owe him a favor, and I helped you out, Bruce, and don't make me blow you up, but get me out of these jams.
The one thing that I was with Joker is I wish he wasn't in it at all. I'm glad that they gave it a different take or whatever. I'm so sick of seeing the Joker. There are other bad guys that are way cooler, I think, in Batman that they could totally explore in different ways than the same fucking person over and over again. And that was that's why it was cool that Zaz is in it and all these other people, and the sock puppet guy, what's that guy's name? The guy with
the puppeteer, right?
So like there's like
title, right?
Yeah.
There's other guys and girls that they could explore, and so it's like, come on, man. Like that was like my one reaction. I was like, I like that.
Ventriloquist.
I like there it is.
Fuck.
I like that it's
Puppeteer's
a video game.
It's a PS3 game.
Use the move.
Whatever. I think it's
so that was a little disappointing, just in the sense I'm like, because it takes such there's so much leniency in terms of the storytelling, in terms of what they're doing. For instance, the bad guy is Vicki Vale. In the game, and
which was an awesome twist.
It was a disappointment. It was a great twist, but I was disappointed because I wanted to have sex with Vicki Vale. So it was one of those things where like I thought we were going to that space.
Yeah. Well, but that's why I loved it. Is that for me, like, I yelled at the voice actress on the Unmasked show, because for me at the end of episode 1, right, you have the incriminating evidence on Falcone, and it's, do you want to go to Gordon or do you want to go to Vale? And I was like, I'm gonna go to Vicki Vale because I know she can get it out. I still think Gordon's a good guy, obviously, but I think he's got so much bureaucracy and the whole fucking rotten apple on top of him, he'll never be able to do anything with it. So to give it to her and be playing nice with her and be like making those choices with her as an ally, to then have her, when she stabs me in the hand, I'm like, oh shit, she's on the drug. And then it was like, no, she is Lady R. I'm like, oh fuck no.
It was a twist. I didn't see the twist coming.
Exactly.
And then the dealing with the Penguin I thought was most interesting, and that's where they took the most liberty with him, their childhood friends, and which is one of the things I asked you. I'm like, I didn't know that about Penguin. I was like, I didn't know they were childhood friends, and they're not. But in this game they are, and I like the mask that they gave him. It was very Christopher Nolan-esque. I think that's how Christopher Nolan would have portrayed Penguin if they did it. And to me, I don't know. I liked the synthesis of the bad guys and kind of the plot. I thought the plot was somewhat meaningless at the end of the day. To me, it was really about Bruce's relationship with Selena and Alfred and the Commissioner, who's not the Commissioner until the last episode, but and how they kind of all intermingle, and then making these choices that I felt like were most tonally consistent with what I wanted to do. And again, I wanted to be a badass Batman when necessary, but I wanted it to be Bruce Wayne as much as possible. And there are multiple times in the game where it tells you, do you want to do this as Bruce Wayne or do you want to do this as Batman? And I always chose Bruce. I beat the living shit out of Penguin in his office, which was one of the big choices that I saw at the end that a lot of people didn't make. And I did that as Bruce Wayne.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
So like there's a lot of cool stuff there where it's like it's the trophy whore in me speaking, but it's like I like that they give you the platinum just for beating the game or whatever, but at the same time it would have been cool to make me go back because I would have at least had an extra carrot on the stick as opposed to going to YouTube, which is what I'm going to do. I would have rather have gone back and had to have played it again and then make different choices. But this is my Batman, and I deleted it off my console yesterday, but I have my save in the cloud, and in 2 years, or 18 months when we get the new one, I'll jump back in. But I thought, story-wise, I thought it was very strong and very consistent. The one thing that I thought was weird is in the 5th episode, this was the only thing I thought was truly bizarre, was Vicki Vale is the bad guy, Lady Arkham's the bad guy, or whatever. She has her concussion staff, whatever. It's pretty cool, but Batman is beating the living shit out of her in the last episode, and I'm like, this doesn't look good. And it's not one of those people where I'm like, you have to introduce a girl and she's going to be dealt with the same way a guy's dealt with, but he is like murdering her. And I'm like, she's like a 90-pound woman. I'm like, this doesn't really.
She got them
why
boots.
Is she so strong?
She got them boots, those concussive boots. She was flying around.
It doesn't really make any. That didn't really make any sense.
That said, though, I thought that
it looked like he was going to kill her.
I thought that fight scene was really, really well done for Telltale, who I've always thought has struggled with action. I thought that was a really well done fight scene. In the same way, I thought in episode 2, the Selena Bruce bar scene was awesome. That was a great cool scene, set to music, and for me, it was a really great moment of getting lost in a game, and where Telltale I think succeeds so much is that we have this great fucking thing where we beat the shit out of these guys together as Bruce, as Selena, and then you run out and you get behind the car and you're talking to her, and like the thing comes up of like, kiss her, and I was like, yeah, kiss her, and it wasn't like, yeah, fucking kissing. It was like, yeah, like I think show don't tell is always that thing, right? In comics, always, in movies, always to tell you how Batman and Catwoman have this unspoken bond, and there's this this attraction to them that's unspoken. And for me, being in that moment of being Bruce Wayne or being Batman, you know what I mean, making those choices, getting us to this point, and coming out of that, I was like, oh fuck, you're badass. This is badass. We're badass together, and do it. And then she's like, what would Harvey think? And I was like, oh fuck, right. Wasn't even thinking about the fact that I'm legitimately friends with Harvey in this game, and I like Harvey so much. And it was like, wow, that's really cool. That's really well done.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other interesting thing. I guess the only other thing I really have to say, and of any substance, is the way Two-Face was dealt with in Harvey. I thought was interesting because they teased that he's going to become Two-Face, but he never really does. Like at least in my playthrough,
yeah, he never became Two-Face for you, right?
Like he like hurts himself in like a certain way that seems like he's gonna be like the half and half. Then they stop. They like don't go that far, and then they really just play up his mental illness, like that he's just fucking crazy, like that he's not even really bad.
Well, he could be Two-Face in your game.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So he's not Two-Face in my game.
Yeah, he's not Two-Face in my. I mean, it's. To be clear of what we're saying is he can have the burned half of the face. By the end of it, he's clearly Two-Face. He's doing the thing where he's talking to himself, changing his voice. And I did think I thought up until then they had been really up until episode 5 with the whole Two-Face thing, they had made like 1 or 2 references. And I was like, all right, that's a new face for Gotham. All that. I was like, all right, that's funny. That's good. And then in episode 5, they say Two-Face twice. And the first time they say it, I was like, all right. And the second time it was like, sorry to be such a Two-Face about this. I'm like, that's not a phrase. You're trying too hard to make me. Anyways, no. At the end of episode 2, when you have to make the choice whether you're going to save Selena or Harvey, yeah,
I saved.
You saved Harvey.
Yeah.
So did I, because at that point it pops up, and I'm like, and legitimately, because it's like, who do you save? I thought Telltale was crazy enough to kill one of them, and it popped up, and I was like, Selena knew what she was getting into, and she's a costume person like me. She knows what this life is. At this point in the game, Harvey's still an innocent. Like, he's just trying to fucking be mayor. He doesn't deserve this. So I went and saved him. She gets shot, but it doesn't even matter. If you save Selena, Penguin slams his face with a hot spotlight and burns his face.
Oh.
Yeah. And so then from there on out, he would have the thing. And it's...
Oh, interesting. That's disappointing, actually, in a way.
It's the same trajectory of... He starts wearing a mask and there's an additional added breakdown of this happening. How can he be mayor? How can I do anything look like that? And that's where the psychoses really gets ratcheted up another notch.
I would like for him to come back around.
Well, I'm sure he will. Yeah, I imagine like what you're talking about with he'll remember that and stuff. I don't know if it'll be a main player in season 2.
Well, I'm saying like whereas like a redemption thing where he doesn't really. If
that's what you mean.
He doesn't really go.
That'd be really cool. And like you still. That's how the conversations I was having with him at the end, right? Where I'm talking to him as Bruce, and I'm very much like I'm stressing. I want to help you. I want to help you. This isn't you. This isn't you. It's not. There's options to like be really aggressive and rush in and try to fight him and shit like that. That's not what I was doing. And so. to what you're talking about of like how you address the situation as Bruce all the time, I carried with me very much what I believe Batman to be, where Batman is Batman and Bruce is the Mask, right? So I never ever gave a shit about the Wayne family name or, you know, what Bruce's opinion is and what Gotham sees as him. So when it came to those things where it was like, there was a few where it was like, for like when you want to confront Harvey after the Selena stuff, I went as Bruce because I was like, well, this is me. But for like, I think maybe even Mayor Hamilton too, I went as Bruce. But that's really it's like when it was Batman, you know, when Bruce was in the shitter and everybody thought he was terrible, and it was like, you know, you can show up as Bruce or Batman. This will be a good for Batman. It'll show people who Batman is. I did that, like, because I was always making the choice. And then at the end of this one too, like I had Batman show up at Commissioner Gordon's thing at the very end of episode 5 because I was like,
he seemed disappointed that Bruce showed up.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Is in my head, I'm like, Bruce Wayne's still a shitbag. The Wayne name is still totally fucked. Thomas Wayne was fucking drugging people and admitting them to Arkham and ruining lives. Like, he's a monster. The Wayne family, Bruce showing up isn't going to save that.
Yeah, that's a foundational part of the story that we didn't talk about, by the way.
Yeah,
that the
and
Waynes
that's an awesome
people.
twist. Yeah, the Waynes were awful, and they did ruin the Cobblepot family, which is why when Oswald starts getting his comeuppance and getting CEO and stuff at first, and why he's even totally unhinged and an asshole. I'm like, this all makes sense now. Yeah, you actually do have a bone to pick and an axe to grind with the Wayne family and Arkham, and that makes so much sense. And that's why it is so cool to see, you know, Bruce admitted and have to deal with all that shit. And that all of that was awesome stuff, I thought. And like that, and those were the great moments too of talking to Troy and just talking to other players of like being inside of Arkham, right? There's the thing of I want to get out, but then there's also of like, I want to know everything about who John Doe is, the Joker. Like, what does everybody know about him? And then like he gives you that key. I walked over to the guard pretty much immediately, and I was like, "Hey, I have this." And they're like, and I kept being a good teacher. Like in Zaz, like when Zaz gets cut, and did you run it to the phone or did you save the guy?
I saved the guy.
Yep. See, that me too. And like everyone at the Telltale panel, Batman himself, Troy Baker was like, "No, I ran to the phone." I'm like, "What the fuck, man? It's an innocent life that didn't need to end in front of you right there."
Yeah, I was the key thing. I tried the key a million different times on everything, and it didn't. I don't really know what the significance of it was. The what I'm super interested now in is in going to season 2. Who's going to be the main antagonist? And because I don't, you know, Penguin's gone. I'm sure they're going to lead in the Joker, but what I'm hoping they are smart enough to do is if they have permission from DC or an intent to do more than 2 seasons, is that they actually lead that even further and don't actually make him like the arch nemesis in the last season, the 3rd season, or whatever. And has some sort of, you know, I've always really I've said it a million times that if Nolan did another movie, I'd always want Mr. Freeze to be the bad guy, and I'd like to see them do a grounded and totally normal Freeze, and what that would be like.
Well, I mean, for me, there's so many things to explore in season 2 that I'm stoked about. I love the Joker. I wouldn't mind seeing another Joker story because I think their Joker's different, and I would like to see what that looks like, what they do with that based on how they twisted things here. And I think from the feedback they've been getting, it seems they're like, oh shit, we can do whatever we want now. And you've really done that here where it's like, now the audience kind of understands that anything can happen in the game. Let's go and piggyback off of that and see what happens and where we go with it. But the thing even when we were doing the Unmasked shows, people weren't talking about enough, I felt like, is I think my favorite breadcrumb in the episode is the little black orphan boy in the Vale household. Because I think he's going to be Duke. Because his story is so much like Duke right now in the comic books of Batman saves Duke, his parents, you know, die in the whole Joker thing from the end of the New 52 before we jumped, right, or whatever.
I forgot what the storyline was called. But the
death of the family, right? That's when Joker puts that toxin out. They all go crazy. Duke's family goes. Then he becomes one of the We Are Robin kids, and now he's the guy in All-Star Batman running around in the black and gold suit or whatever. And like, just the way that like he saves him reminds me so much of the way he saves every one of the Robins or whatever. It'd be awesome to see him introduced, not as Robin, but as the All-Star Batman, you know, different thing here.
That's what I thought. I'm not knowing anything about this Duke character. I was like, I assume that's going to be Robin.
Yeah. I would fucking love to see that and have them continue to just branch off and do their own world and do whatever they want with it and all these different things. I thought it was cool too. Like, it was weird when in that Vale family crime scene, episode 4, when she chokes the dad with the belt. And I was like, that was a weird choice, like to fucking wail on him and kill him with his belt that you didn't take off his body. Why does that matter? And then in this episode to drop into the torture chamber and have all the belts and the blood on the wall. I was like, oh, this Vale family fucking sucked. They were terrible people. All right, that makes sense why she went in here and went fucking ham on these idiots.
Any closing words on Batman?
I still wanted to have sex with Vicki Vale, but it didn't happen.
You had sex with Catwoman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
did you unzip it or did you let her unzip it?
I let her unzip.
Hell yeah, you did.
Yeah, I let her
Yeah,
unzip
you did.
me.
She's straddling Bruce, and she's like, "You gonna do this for me, or do you want to watch?" And he's like, "I'm like, I'd like to watch."
Do you want to watch is probably the best way to phrase that.
And I was like,
otherwise, be like, I want to do
And
it.
shout out, and like that's another thing about it is that was a surprising moment for me where I was like, I want to watch, and I expected them to slowly do the fade back, and it's like, no, here I'm unzipping, and
Really?
you don't see like nips or anything.
Yeah.
But I was like,
Little cat
damn,
nips.
like this is actually again an adult Batman story, right? Like it's the same thing in episode 1 when like guy's been shot in the head or whatever, and he comes in and like uses that thing to like suck the bullet out, and then you impale Falcone if you want at the end on the rebar, and it's like, or you break the guy's arm, and it's like, fuck, this is actually a very mature Batman, you know what I mean, in terms of like how we're handling all of this and what we're going to do with it, and how bloody we'll get and how violent we'll get and curse words and sex, and it's like, all right, rad.
Yeah.
It's a great version of Batman. Yeah, all the technical stuff we've talked about sucks. For me, it really cropped up in episode 5, and I hope that gets patched quick enough, but it doesn't stop it for me in terms of like, I think it's one of the best things of the year.
Yeah, just go in with open eyes. That's Telltale.